In Alaska, it's all hands on deck. The team in Kodiak races to save 4 hunters lost at sea.
Everybody's adrenaline starts pumping, the hair stands up on your neck. It was like, okay, this is not over yet.
In the Gulf of Alaska, a fisherman's life hangs in the balance.
All right, so we're gonna thread the needle. Bill's good at this.
I got you.
And at Air Station Sitka, the crew launches to save a patient in agonizing pain.
It sounded like a situation that could drastically complicate an already busy Medevac.
The vast Alaskan wilderness, a place where beauty is cloaked by danger. Here, every day, 350 highly trained men and women risk their lives to save others. America's deadliest waters are protected by Coast Guard Alaska.
Air Station Kodiak Operations, Lieutenant Blair speaking. They should be airborne in about 20 minutes. I called district for an updated position of the boat. So we got the call from District 17 that a 57-year-old male was coughing up blood on the fishing vessel Retriever at approximately 180 miles south of Cordova. We decided to launch the H-60 out of Cordova, and we also launched our C-130 out of Kodiak to provide cover for the H-60.
God, it's so clear out here.
What's the name of this vessel?
The Retriever. How big was it, Pete?
125 feet.
C-130 provides 2 things for the H-60. They provide both comm support in the event that they would lose communications with our comm station here in Kodiak, and the other thing they can provide is SAR support in the event that the H-60 had a maintenance malfunction and was forced to ditch.
You got the boat on the nose? Oh, right there, yep.
See how little it looks from here? It's a 125-foot boat.
Fishing vessel Retriever. This is Coast Guard Aircraft Channel 6.
This is the Retriever.
Currently you're talking to a C-130 aircraft.
Oh, yeah, I see you there. Okay.
The H-60 helicopter that's coming out of Cordova is going to be on scene in about 45 to 40 minutes. What we'd like you to do, though, is to go ahead and clear out the best area possible for hoisting.
Before the helicopter arrives on scene, we as the C-130 aircrew members provide a hoist brief to the fishing vessel captain. The helicopter, when it arrives on scene, when it goes into a hover, is going to bring with it hurricane force winds. And it's very important that the vessel clears everything out and preps the crew for that.
And fishing vessel Retriever, Coast Guard Aircraft 22 Alpha, can I get an updated condition of the patient, please?
He's alert and pale and weak.
Okay, roger that. Other than that, vital is in stable condition.
Yeah, it is stable as far as I know.
We're just continually updating the situation as far as patient's condition. Has it stayed the same or worsened? Relaying that information to the helicopter.
1704-600322.
Yeah, roger.
Okay.
Did you guys copy our conversation with the fishing vessel on 22?
We copied off.
Okay.
And Retriever, good evening, Captain, from the helicopter. We are about 5 minutes out. We got you in sight. C-130 circling overhead. They're just going to keep an eye on us. I'll just stand by for instruction here, okay?
Once we got on scene, we verified that the boat was approximately 125 feet long, aft superstructure, an open well deck, typical crab boat that you'll see up here in Alaska, and was certainly going to be hoistable.
It looks like the highest obstacle is the whip antennas on the top of the main superstructure.
Right. So I would say go for exactly where the guy in the orange is right now.
I'm thinking the same thing.
What we did notice is a couple of obstructions on the fishing vessel that might be a potential hazard to our rescue swimmer, something that he could roll his ankle on or bump into on the way down. We talked about all those things and came up with a good plan.
All right, so we're going to thread the needle. Bill's good at this.
I got you. Swimmer's ready?
We can hoist.
Swimmer's going down. Swimmer's going down.
Come in.
Roger, forward and right. Easy forward and right. Hold. Swimmer's going down. Swimmer's on deck.
I went down to the boat,
And I went and started talking to him, figuring out what was wrong. For the most part, he was pretty ambulatory, so he could walk. So as soon as I got enough of the basic information, I called for a basket.
Patient's coming to the basket. Position's good. Patient is in the basket. Patient's coming up. Basket's coming in. Basket inside the cabin.
And then they sent down the bear hook, and I left. It was very smooth, very clean operation.
Hoist complete.
We wrapped up pretty quick, started making way back to Cordova. We got the patient situated. EJ talked to him, was trying to assess his situation.
When was the last time you coughed up blood?
3 hours ago. During the day, from about 9 o'clock till 3 hours ago, I did it 7 times.
How much blood was it?
Probably around a quart and a half total.
A lot of blood. I'm going to give you if anything starts coming up, bag, you just want to spin that, that's fine. All right.
The danger with coughing up blood is I don't know how much blood. He told me about a quart, which seems like a lot, but there's no real way to tell how much it was, and there's no way to tell what exactly is going wrong. So at any second, he could go from a really good situation to a really bad situation. And the whole time we're flying, that's all I'm monitoring for, making sure that his baseline vitals are good and just to get him to the med flight to a higher level of care.
You guys good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
We're going to stay at 500 feet right now. Might climb back up. We'll start at 2,000 feet. Does that work for you?
Yep.
The C-130 was there to escort us home, and once we were within about 50 miles of Cordova, we were able to cut the C-130 loose.
I hope you guys are having a good flight, and thanks for the escort.
Yep, no worries, our pleasure.
It's a good feeling to provide, support not only to the patient on the fishing vessel, but also support for, your fellow coasties, knowing that if something goes wrong, you're there to help them out.
Punch 203, com safe. E17 requests you land at Cordova Airport. Guardian Life Flight will be taking the patient from there to Anchorage, over.
Good copy. We'll get back to you shortly with our ETA.
District sent the Guardian Life Flight to meet us in Cordova. Thanks to all the good coordination from District and the air stations, that Guardian Flight was there when we landed.
I think I see the Life Flight. Yep, we got a set. I'm John, by the way. This is Vince. We're your happy drivers for the day. Y'all did a fantastic job. The whole crew did. Everybody did. I appreciate it.
When we got back to Cordova, the med flight was waiting for us. We taxied right up to him and kept the rotor head spinning for the quick exit. EJ walked him over there and briefed the paramedics.
Be curious what the flight surgeon has to say,
And got him on his way.
The community built this rink and just really brought a lot of people together who love to play hockey.
Cross, John, cross!
They work hard, we work hard, like to play hard as well.
What we're looking for is an 18-foot Lund. Frank James, Coast Guard aircraft.
These 4 men had been overdue for 3 days now, and it was getting to the critical point to find them.
I'm Lieutenant Vincent Jansen. I'm an H-60 pilot here at Air Station Kodiak. We're in the middle of Kodiak at the Kodiak Municipal Ice Hockey Rink. I used to speed skate when I was a teenager, and when I went to the Coast Guard Academy, they didn't have a speed skating team, so joined the hockey team just to get on the ice and get some exercise.
We're pretty good.
You're pretty good. My name is Lieutenant Jim Cooley. I'm an H-60 helicopter pilot. The local Parks and Recreation put on the schedule and opened up the ice time for us all. I've never seen anything like it. It's free ice time. This among countless other things make Kodiak, Alaska a great place.
Well, it was actually my freshman year at the Coast Guard Academy. There was a World Cup speed skating match up in Saratoga Springs, New York, and that's where I met Jim Cooley. Jim's mom actually came up to me and tapped me on the shoulder. I think she recognized the uniform that I was wearing.
Cross, John, cross!
So she's like, you know, Jimmy, that's a cadet. You need to go talk to him. I ended up talking, became great friends. We ended up on this island somewhere in Alaska flying H-60s together. Yeah. So glad you came up.
Can we say hi to your mom?
Oh, yeah. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Jim's mom.
Right key, right key, right key!
Normally we wouldn't be able to meet or interact with you guys who are on the ice tonight, but the community built this rink and just really brought a lot of people together who love to play hockey. You're meeting guys on the bench who are working on the fishing boats and on a 9-to-5 job at the Coast Guard base. You know, they work hard, we work hard, like to play hard as well.
I'm Lieutenant Commander Josh Fitzgerald, C-130 pilot, Air Station Kodiak. We got word that there was a overdue skiff from the Cape Newenham area on the north side of Bristol Bay. They had gone out on Thursday and the family hadn't heard from them since. In the Bering Sea, it's pretty cold, so we are already thinking we need to get out there and try to locate them immediately.
My name is Lieutenant Commander Beth Fielder, and I'm a C-130 pilot. Our search pattern was about 260 miles west of Kodiak. We had about a 280 nautical mile transit to get there, which is about an hour for a C-130.
Okay, guys, what we're looking for is an 18-foot lund, possibly walrus hunt. The boat doesn't have a name. There's a guy on the boat with a name, Frank James. How that works out, you go on a walrus hunt on an 18-foot boat.
Okay, crew, this is going to be a drop at the SLDMB. We will do it at 500 feet and about 140 knots.
When we first got on scene, we dropped the SLDMB. That's a self-locating data marker buoy. This gives us satellite info so we can track the ocean currents.
You're clear to open the cargo ramp door.
Roger, what's going on? Open and locked.
Shot.
Drops away.
When we're on scene searching and it's daylight, anybody that is near a window is looking outside, looking at the water. And then we've also got the Casper operator that's working the camera, the infrared camera. They can see much further out than we can with the naked eye.
Originally the boat was blue, but it's been spray painted white. So it should be some sort of mixture of blue and white. Might still be some ice out here too. So obviously a blue and white boat is gonna camouflage. Yeah. We've got 4 people on board, a father, a son who's age 13, and then 2 adults in their 20s and 30s.
These 4 men had been overdue for 3 days now, and it was getting to the critical point to find them, and knowing that there was a 13-year-old boy on board sort of hit home for a lot of crew members.
Frank James, Coast Guard aircraft.
Well, it was pretty good for the most part, but there was a fog layer that was moving in. So as we continued with the search, the fog would kind of cover up one part of the search area.
Frank James, Coast Guard aircraft. Frank James, Coast Guard aircraft.
After our search pattern that we were assigned, we didn't find anybody, so we're always a little disappointed about that because we know that somebody's still out there in danger, and then all of a sudden, Mayday blasts through our headsets on Channel 16, and everybody's adrenaline starts pumping, the hair stands up on your neck, then it was like, okay, this is not over yet.
Yeah, he's in the fog and the ice floes. Yeah, the ice floe is over there.
Yeah, that's why I was heading south.
He's a long ways away from where he was at originally.
Did he hear us or see us?
The fog was so low over the ice, we still had no way to kind of home in on where he was. Kept having him talking to us as we were homing in on him, and told him, hey, let us know when we fly overhead and we'll mark the position. And then that moment when he says, you overhead, and we can hear the engines of the plane through his radio, that's when we knew that we had him.
At 500 feet, we're trying to get visual on the vessel.
He's in the fog.
We were trying to break out of the clouds and drop him some survival gear We made about 5 or 6 orbits from different directions, but we have to be able to see them in order to drop them the gear.
Can you see the imaging through the clouds?
No, there's so much water vapor in the clouds I can't see through them.
There's a couple dangers with doing drops without having visual contact. One would be dropping the equipment and actually hitting the boat or the survivors, or dropping the only equipment that we have outside of their reach and then not being able to give them any equipment.
What do you guys think?
I mean, I wouldn't drop it in the line.
Wouldn't?
No.
Do we have a position to pass 5017?
I gave them the general coordinates of this ice flow that we've been flying around at.
Okay.
They said that helo will be shortly taken off from the air station.
Very tempting just to drop gear, but we could cause them more harm.
I agree, 100%.
It is frustrating not to be able to drop your equipment, but knowing that we had another crew on their way out, we were pretty confident that the survivors would be okay for another hour or two for the helicopter to get there to hoist them.
Yes.
They had located the mariners in distress, so by 10 o'clock we were wheels up en route.
The weather on scene was pretty much a fog layer. If the cloud layer goes all the way down to the water, you could get down to 50 feet and maybe not even see the water still.
What do you got these clouds?
Lieutenant Mark Heisner, I'm an H-60 pilot here at Air Station Kodiak. The 18-foot skiff got underway Thursday morning, and somehow they went missing. It's now Sunday morning, and the C-130 is out looking for them.
Same search that the other guys had? Yes.
Lieutenant Jake Smith, Aircraft Commander, Air Station Kodiak. I was oncoming duty on Sunday morning, so by the time I got in, we had an air crew, a C-130 crew, up flying pretty much for most of the morning. At that point, they had located the mariners in distress, so by 10 o'clock we were wheels up en route across the Alaska Peninsula.
When we finally arrived close to the position that the C-130 had given us, the weather on scene was pretty much a fog layer from the surface all the way up to, I'd say, somewhere between 12 and 1,500 feet. So we knew that we were going to have to do an instrument approach through the clouds down to the surface.
This would be a lot more fun if we could see something. Yeah, it sure would be.
When you're flying instruments, one of the most worrisome things, though, is the thought that we might not break out at the bottom. If the cloud layer goes all the way down to the water, you could get down to 50 feet and maybe not even see the water still.
I want to get out these clouds. I can see it's a little clear below us, but it's working straight in the clouds.
We didn't really break out until about 80 feet, and at that point, we still weren't on scene. We were about 4 miles away from where the survivors were located.
We are clear of the clouds.
I left the instruments and I started the visual scan. We heard over the radios, "Hey, I see him." And I look up and I could see somebody waving their arms above their head. It was kind of like a gray ghost out in the fog.
You're ready, Argo!
Got him in sight over there at the 10 o'clock.
Roger. I'm all rigged for the basket.
I'm Jason Bunch. I'm an aviation survival technician. Once we arrived on scene, we saw that the survivors were in good health and good physical condition.
Got room in your back for those folks?
We saw that the ice pack was nice and stable. Their skiff was anchored and stuck in place. So we were quick to just make the decision to lower the basket, have the survivors climb in at one at a time, which they were more than physically capable of doing.
Ready for one basket hoist as a survivor?
The Alaska Native people are hands down the toughest individuals you're going to meet, especially when it comes to their survival skills. Each survivor that came into the cabin was alert times 4. They were enjoying the situation. They liked the basket ride to the plane. They liked the fact that they weren't on that ice float. Anytime we get to assist Alaskans, period, it's an awesome feeling.
Yeah, they're in good health.
Oh, roger.
Once we got all 4 people on board, told the C-130, "Hey, we got everybody. We're going to be coming up through the clouds now." And from there, we turned and headed east toward Dillingham.
Our door is closed, and we're forward flight.
We found out that they were safe and sound. That's the greatest feeling in the world. What we found out later was they got stuck in a storm, and in order to escape the big seas, they ducked into an ice floe because it was more stable for the little boat. From where these guys embarked from and where they ended up was, I think, over 150 miles. It just, again, it really emphasizes the importance of teamwork and how we rely on each other to get the job done.
Be advised, the patient is semi-unconscious and not responding to the medical personnel down there, over.
I went around and talked to the patient. She looked like she was in severe discomfort, some pain, definitely was not feeling good.
Hey, it's Lieutenant Jenks. All right, so what's the state of the patient? Do you guys have coordinates for us besides Edna Bay? Okay. We're gonna head in that direction, but we're gonna need coordinates, obviously.
My name is Eric Santos. I'm a AET2 here at Air Station Sitka. The song alarm just went off, and we're going to go do a potential medevac out of Edna Bay.
All right, see you. All right, guys, let's brief and go. Mission requirements, we're gonna be going from here south to Edna Bay. They're gonna get us coordinates en route for specifically, we're going land-based medevac, young girl that's had kidney infection issues, and she's been in pain for a couple days. Now she's starting to go into more serious symptoms. Weather, it's gonna be gusty, but ceilings and viz shouldn't be an issue. I'll be in the left seat, I'll take care of the nav and all the commute comms with Sector, and Mr. Tabor will be in the right seat. You guys have any questions?
You know where we're going? Cape Pole, it's pretty much halfway to Kodiak, but pretty much over water.
With the conditions tonight, we don't have really bad ceilings or visibility. We do have pretty high winds, so we're gonna have quite a bit in the way of turbulence. We're also going into an area that we're not particularly familiar with, so we do have some uncertainty with regards to what our landing space is gonna be, and we've also got limited information on the patient's condition. So the whole transit down, which should be about an hour, we're gonna be gathering as much additional information as we possibly can.
Control? Yes, control. Torques. Number 1 and 2 generators, waiting on the lights.
We're ready, aft.
Ready forward.
Our crew is ready to go. We're picking up, and the advantage that we've got working for us right now is the fact that we've taken off during daylight. For the next hour transit, we're going to be working our way into that twilight that still has daylight, and that's ideal when we don't know what our landing situation is going to look like in an unfamiliar area.
Do you guys have a point for Edna Bay in your map up front?
No.
All right, now we're going to look it up back here in the gazetteer.
Yeah, if you could, that'd be great, because it's not on the aviation chart I'm looking right now.
Roger.
You'll see Cape Pole. It's just inside of Cape Pole.
A lot of roads. We should be able to land somewhere.
Rescue 3 for a sector. The updated landing zone position is 5557. Decimal 916 north. 133 37 rest. Over.
Yep, got it.
Sector 6034, Roger, we got that. And also, if you get any updated information on the patient, over.
Rescue 3 for a sector. Be advised, the patient is semi-unconscious and not responding to the medical personnel down there, over.
Semi-conscious, not responding to medical.
My name is Noel Hutton. I'm an aviation survival technician, first class, rescue swimmer. I just received a little bit of an update that patient might be a little bit in and out of consciousness. Has been, high fever for a couple days. So what I want to try to do is gather up the different equipment that I need, and it's getting later towards the evening and it's starting to get dark on us. So hopefully we can get there, find the landing pad before it gets real dark, make it an easier transition to get her back to Sitka as soon as we can.
Rescue 3 for a sector, over.
Sector 6034, go ahead.
Rescue 3 for Tedegino, be advised that there is approval for the patient's 2-year-old and 8-month-old child to come with you back to Sitka, over.
Okay then. 2-year-old and 8-month-old? Hang on a second. And find out how old the patient is.
29.
So they want us to take the patient, and then they want us to take care of a 2-year-old and an 8-month-old in the back without anybody else?
Prior to being told that we were going to be taking the children with us, we were told that the patient was in and out of consciousness. Knowing that this is a potentially complicated medevac, the idea of adding 2 small children to an extremely stressful environment at night that can be disorienting sounded like a situation that could potentially drastically complicate an already busy medevac.
Shoot, best case scenario, they're quiet little angels, don't plan on that. Worst case scenario, they're freaking out, just know that they're buckled up, they're safe, and it's only a matter of time until we're back and don't get distracted from the patient, since that's our priority.
Roger. Yeah, we gotta be prepared, man, because I know turbulence, that's gonna make them puke pretty easily.
Man, I knew we should have brought the pack and play.
Yeah, we need to add that to the gear.
You never know with kids. The noise and the rotors and everything could really upset them, and we could have 2 screaming children. And we just don't have the manpower in the back of the aircraft to be treating a patient and taking care of 2 kids at the same time. We've got our fingers crossed that they'll be well behaved and that they won't be too frightened just getting onto the aircraft.
Also, be advised that once you land in Sitka, the grandmother and grandfather of the 2 children will meet you there, over.
Oh, that's good news.
Sector 6034, up.
All right, before landing, crew brief.
We're taking it nice and slow, and it looks like the shore will be on the left side to keep us into the wind.
Roger.
Well, there's at least an open area on the shore.
That has a lot of lights on it.
Yeah, with a rescue vehicle.
Let me know when I've got those feet.
You got yours,
The land here. Eric, you got the sight?
Roger, I see the green lights. I see the truck. I see your space light.
All right, so that's where I'm looking. I mean, I don't know if that's hill or if we just go right to the road here.
So we get the aircraft into a good position over the landing site or next to the landing site to where we can see. And what it turns out to be is a quarry. We can see that we've got a clear area, but we can't tell if it's flat or if there's any rocks or small obstacles in the area. No one person in the aircraft has a perfect view. We've each got pieces of the puzzle, and we try to talk those pieces together to put together a real picture in our heads of what's around the aircraft. So it's my job to keep the aircraft from smacking into anything and to give the flight mechanic long enough to pick out the best spot that he thinks we can put it down in.
All right, what do you think, Eric?
If you look your tail to the left.
Tail's coming left.
You come straight down. Right here will be a good spot. You just gotta, once again, swing your tail to the left a little bit more. You're clear down, easy down. Easy down, you're still clear. Tail's on. Left on. Okay, you got right arms on left line. Roger, off, settled in.
Looking good, you're all within limits here.
Once we get landed in, I got out of the helicopter. Then I went around and talked to the patient. She looked like she was in severe discomfort, some pain. Definitely was not feeling good. Her main concern was trying to keep her composure for her girls. She didn't want to show her girls that she was crying and in pain. So we immediately had to figure out, how am I going to get her in to the helicopter? So we decided to use the litter. So I had Eric get that ready. As we're doing that, we had to get a hold of the EMS people that were watching the 2 little girls so that we could take the children in first.
We placed the patient on the litter, and I grabbed the baby and the 8-month-old and the car seat. I brought her in right away. Noel was right behind me with the 2-year-old. As soon as we strapped them down, we went back to where the patient was being taken care of. We strapped her down to the litter and brought the litter inside the helicopter.
The 2-year-old, she was sleeping. We got both the little children strapped into the troop seats. Then our next focus was to get Mom hooked up to my monitor and got her all stabilized and got her in a good, comfortable position so we could take off.
Yeah. How lucky could we get?
Dude, yeah, it's definitely best case scenario. That's awesome.
Knowing the patient's history and talking to her, you know, she was in severe pain. So my main focus was to try to start an IV.
Probably good time, kids. Gonna get bumpier.
Being in the back of the helicopter with the turbulence going on and the lack of light, I was able to get a little bit of flash, is what we call it, where the blood comes back up into there and a little bit of a drip going in, but was not able to flip my catheter in. And it ended up kinking on me, so I had to abandon that and look for another IV on the other arm. As I attempted the other arm, I had a fairly good IV site. And as soon as I got my IV going, it seemed like her vein kind of collapsed on me and I could not float it in there.
Oh, baby. Get in here.
Dude, yeah, it's definitely best case scenario. That's awesome.
We are picking up from the landing site. There is a 29-year-old female that is having kidney complications. The woman has 2 small children, 2 years old and 8 months old. And there is nobody else there that's capable of taking care of them. So now we just know that our responsibility has been heightened with the additional precious cargo on board.
We got both the little children strapped into the troop seats. Then our next focus was to try to start an IV. As soon as I got my IV going, it seemed like her vein kind of collapsed on me and I could not float it in there.
Oh, baby. Get in here. Damn it.
So this time I couldn't even get an IV in, but we were only probably about 5 to 10 minutes out at this point. So my best option now was just to go ahead and get her ready for Sitka ambulance.
How are you doing, guys?
She's hurting real bad. Yeah, she's got really small veins, really hard for an IV.
How's the baby doing? Look like she,
Yeah, they're both still passed out. So.
she's breathing okay.
Yeah, they're both.
That's amazing.
She is bundled up in that seat, man.
There's something about looking back and seeing 2 little girls sleeping in the middle of this military helicopter, in the middle of Alaska, in the middle of the night, that gives you just a huge amount of pride to be there doing the job that night. It's a huge sense of accomplishment and a huge weight off your shoulders when that rotor brake goes on and you get your patient safely off board. It's an even huger relief tonight that the girls were great the whole way, that we didn't really have any meltdown or emergencies with them. It was a successful transit and the successful delivery of their mom to the hospital here in Sitka.
Jesse's got lower abdomen pain, probably she's thinking kidney stone.
Okay. Back pain, lower abdomen.
Yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad is that pain?
It's real bad. I just don't want to cry in front of my baby. It's scary.
Okay, we'll see what we can do for you. We're going to get you right over to the hospital. It might cause you a little pain taking you out, but we'll get you right over there. Evelyn. How old are you?
Hi, sweetie. 1 and 9.
What's your plate,
huh? Thank you guys so much.
So welcome. Still wish I could have got some IVs in.
I've had nurses poke me 30 times.
I feel a little bit better, I guess. Getting cut.
The patient is clearly in pain, but she's conscious, which is a positive indicator. Also, we've got those 2 small children. They're still snoozing. 2-year-old's just starting to wake up. You got that one?
Got this one. Precious cargo.
And knowing the conditions that we were flying in, that we were able to get this family safely transported together to a higher level of care and to some great grandparents for these kids who can take care of them while their mom's going through a tough time is as rewarding as it gets for a medevac.
You all right?
drink?
She's just cold.
She's cold? You can sit down right there. Be more comfortable.
You want your sister?
There you go.
Most of the time when the medics take the patient, our job's pretty much done. But tonight we had 3 patients, really, and I think we were just as concerned about the kids and how they were doing as we were about their mom. As strange an experience it had to have been to have this helicopter ride, it's got to be an even stranger experience now to be in this brightly lit maintenance hangar with all these big men in orange suits walking around, and of course, they're so cute, we all want to stare at them and talk to them, and we've all got kids ourselves, and everybody's trying to bring them out of their shell.
I did great. Slept the whole way.
Hi, girls.
These 2 belong to you?
Yeah.
So the little one never woke up.
They're my great grandbabies.
Sleeping.
Hi.
You know, it was satisfying to, you know, be able to give Evelyn to her great grandma and knowing that there's some kind of family here in Sitka to take care of her and take her home and watch her while, you know, mom gets better.
What do you think of all these orange guys, huh? Pretty neat, huh?
This is probably my last duty night. I'm finally going to an instructor job, which I've never done full-time before.
Up and away.
It's tough to say whether a case is a great way to end your tour, but it's a huge privilege to get to do this job anywhere. Doing it here in Alaska, personally, is just so fulfilling. It's been so great for our family, and you couldn't ask to work with a better group of people. The caliber, the quality of folks that the Coast Guard gets, people are lining up in droves for these positions, and so I will just always consider it such a privilege to be able to do this job.
I so much appreciate what the Coast Guard did. They came in and they got me when I was sick and everything, but the big thing was they got my kids there with me. That's a big deal because I wasn't there to take care of them, and they were there, and those guys took great care of them. It's amazing to know that the Coast Guard was that helpful, and I appreciate that.
It's always great when you get to put your feet on the ground in these amazing places. Look at that waterfall.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. This is the end to a great, tour here.
Good morning.
Morning. I'm Josh.
Hi, Josh. Craig, nice to meet you.
You too.
I'm Sally.
Hi, Sally. Nice to meet you.
This is Emily.
Hi, Em.
I'm Lieutenant Josh Tabor. I'm a pilot here at Air Station Sitka, and today we're taking the family for a float plane ride.
You've been flying here for how many
3
years?
years.
3 years.
Yeah, so I'm right at the end of my tour flying the helicopter.
Well, you picked probably the best day of the summer to do this, so it's really nice in the mountains
Sheer
today.
luck.
Ever since we got here, I've wanted to go out and see what's off the road system and what my husband gets to see when he's flying, but I've never seen it. So we're pretty lucky that we got a good weather day today.
You ready to go?
Sit in the middle, Em.
Go up and sit by your sister.
My kids didn't even know what a float plane was until we moved here, and from our house, we can watch them taking off and landing in the channel. So they have, for 3 years now, been getting all excited and running to the windows every time they hear the plane start up. So this morning we told them they were gonna get to go on one, and they just went through the roof. They were really excited. There's so much to see. We're taking off and the kids are looking everywhere. They're trying to figure out the headsets and how to talk to each other on the plane and get used to the noise. And it's so different being in a small aircraft like that.
Look, a frozen waterfall, and look, an even bigger frozen waterfall.
I'm really excited that the girls got to come on the airplane, and for Caroline to do it, like she's old enough that she'll actually remember.
I've been telling Sally for 3 years this pass is one of my favorite places to fly through. Spectacular, yep.
I like it. So do I.
Daddy gets to see this all the time.
It's fun to do it all together. You know, my husband gets to do it all the time, and he sees all this stuff, and he comes back and tells us about it. But there's nothing like actually getting to go up and do it together.
So here's Redoubt Lake, and we're gonna land here mid-lake.
I've always wanted to land on a lake.
Look out the window, honey, look. You wanna hold my hand? You don't have to close your eyes, look out the window. Look, did you feel that? Are we on the water yet?
We're on the water.
You couldn't ask for a more picturesque, perfect conditions for an Alaskan lake landing. Oh yeah, see those footprints?
There's tons of them. I mean, most of them.
I think those are deer. Sally seems to be digging it. She was smiling from ear to ear. I know that she'll remember this as the end to a great, tour here. Look at that waterfall.
Yeah,
oh my goodness.
Big. Oh goodness.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. Okay. It's always great when you get to put your feet on the ground in these amazing places and actually just spend 5 minutes walking around and taking it all in.
Everybody buckled and ready?
Yeah, we're off the water.
Yep, and it's so cool. I mean, to be able to land on the water like that, hit a beach, and then get back on the plane and come back out, that is so cool.
It's really emotional to say goodbye. This was the place where I have friends who I know I can call, and I know they can help, and I know that they know who the Coast Guard families are, and everybody appreciates it here, and everybody knows, and they'll say, thank you for letting your husband do this and help keep us safe. It's super fun.
Yeah. I'm glad you got to do that before you move.
Oh. Everybody say, yay! That last bit of the flight, it's a little sad. That was when it started to get me that really was my last flight in Sitka. You can't get better flying than you get in Alaska. So as a pilot, just for the beauty of the place, how interesting it is and the challenge of it, you can't fly anywhere in the world that's like this. So how could you not miss it? It was amazing, perfect end to a fantastic 3 years of, some of the best flying and most challenging work that I've ever had.